Well, that's it. We've hit the finish line. We've completed our Kessel run. We're back. We've made it to the finish line. We made it to At Attin. We're going to talk about the last episode of Skeleton Crew. It's been a wild ride. Let's bring King Z in because I think we got a lot more than I thought I might have had to say about this show the farther I get away from it. But as always, I give the floor to you first for that kind of global view on just this episode, because I think we're just mainly focusing on episode 8 for right now, right?
Yes, episode 8, the season finale of the run of Skeleton Crew. I think one of the things I want to say is that I am very happy with this show because it stayed consistent with its runtime. So I think that is a definite plus in their category because a lot of their other shows, you see a huge fluctuation in runtime. Yep. So this one stayed pretty consistent within, I'd said, 8 minutes of each episode. So that's a very good improvement. And for the wide view of it, I think this was a very fun show. It had adventure times. It had like 2 slog episodes, which you might get. But overall, I think it was a good attempt of riding the ship of Star Wars. But I think it's a little too late.
Yeah, I think we might even talk about that a little bit more next hour when we get into the live show stuff. So I'll put a pin in that particular piece of analysis until we get there. Dude, I think I agree with you for about maybe 80% of what you just said. I think the further I get away, like I just said a minute ago pre-show, the further I get away from this episode, I think I dislike it a little bit more and more. This is definitely a case for me of them not sticking the landing. They didn't wipe out, like they didn't fall off the mat. The coach didn't have to run out and catch somebody falling off a balance beam or anything. But they didn't stick both feet and then, throw the shoulders back and own it. If I'm using the gymnastics parallel there, it just something felt wrong. Like, I don't know that it was rushed or if it was just too thin, but I think it mainly goes back to me that I just don't know. Maybe which character here was I supposed to care about the most during the resolution of this show? Was it Wim? Was it Fern? Was it one of the parents? Was it John and I not working here? Because I think they tried something with him here. I really do, but I don't think it worked.
They tried to do something with him. I think the only one who really didn't grow, who didn't really change, was KB. KB was the only one I see. She was always the smart, I'll fix everything type person. So and she played that role perfectly. Maybe she didn't need to change that flat story arc we talked about.
You can have a flat arc. We talk about that all the time.
I think Win had to get over his hero worship and realize, sometimes, the heroes aren't always the good guys, at least in your eyes. And then
they laid into that a little thick on this one again too, with between him and Jod, whatever kind of.
Yeah, and then you had Fern, who had to stop being rebellious and actually see what was important in front of her, and like work with a team. Because later in the episode, you saw her working with Finn to delay what they needed. I think the parents were played off as standard Disney parents, where they're goofs.
Goofy.
Yeah, and not really the hero that they should have been, even though there was a big hero moment.
There was. He definitely he had his he threw hands. I'll give Wynn's dad hands. I'll give him credit. He threw hands. But you said goof, and I'm seeing that perfectly when he and Fern's mom are running into the supervisor's tower. Like he's got this weird loopy, weird gate like doofus run move, and I'm like, this dude's not 70. Like he shouldn't have like any hip injury that's making him run. It was just odd, like not an athletic human being. And if he's an athletic guy in real life, boy, did he play it down for this episode, this character.
And if you want to play mental gymnastics with this, you could say that because they live such a sheltered life, they've never had to do this before. They've never been in these situations before. Maybe there's no sports ball on that planet. So
I mean, they do have speeder bikes. So do they have sports ball? Probably not. Maybe they just got bike. Maybe they got slow speed bike racing. No, which brings me to like, I have 2 kind of main complaints, right? And one of them again is it's pretty hit or miss with Disney Star Wars in these shows. Whenever they try to get into some action that involves non-aircraft, non-spacecraft vehicles, because that stuff looked great. Again, I'll sing the praises for the X-wings and the B-wings at the end. I will. I love that.
Yeah.
Right? But anytime these clowns get on a speeder bike, the the Vesper speeders from Book of Boba Fett. Anything they're trying to tell me is high speed literally looks like I could jump off the bike and run faster. And I am not fleet of foot. We both know this, but it looks like I could do that. And I'm like, you're on a high speed bike pursuit against an aircraft, right? And it looks like you're literally just going down an aisle at Walmart on one of the carts. I'm like, you gotta speed up the frames in the background, guys. It's not convincing me. It's not like, as bad as the Skittle Squad from Book of Boba Fett, but it was close.
The moving sidewalk in the airport.
The other guy's just walking. It is bad. It just and the funny part about that scene too is they're trying to escape the pirates who again are overhead in a completely air-based vehicle, and the kids and Wim's dad come up against that jump over the gorge. They jump it and then stop to celebrate that they all made it, and I'm like, where's the hovercraft that does not have this obstacle? Like it still should have been on a gun run and hosing you down, but now I guess we had to celebrate that shit because it kind of called back to the first episode where they were gonna do some jumps or something and it didn't work. I don't remember. Too far ago. I just thought that was odd. I'm like, it's not fast enough to it. Did you see anything in the effects there or anywhere else that bugged you, or is that just a me thing? Because it could be a me thing. I'm with that.
It did look big fake, especially when they were going through the city and then they turn into the school. Yeah,
it did. Maybe we should just let's balance that out then. KB gets the distress call out to Quim or whatever her name was, the owl from 4 episodes again, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls. I don't know what her name was. So they call for the Rangers of the New Republic, as you very astutely pointed out. At Attin stuck 100 years in the past. They have no idea there's a New Republic. That there's what was it? Not the final. What was it called first? The bad guys in the sequel trilogy. Like what the fuck were they even called?
The sequel. Yeah, the First Order.
The First Order, they became the Final Order. They had no idea. They were just over there printing gold. No clue. So, he's like, no. Because I was about to point that out at the beginning. I'm like, oh, snap. So the droids just hand over control to this dude that showed up and said he was a Jedi. But the supervisor, robot as predicted, was like, so which one are you lying about, Dickweed? Are you a Jedi or an emissary? Because we ain't had a shout out from them since Order 66 popped off. I was like, oh.
Yeah, last we heard, the Jedi was the traitors. So which one are you, a liar or a traitor?
So they had 3 seconds of dramatic tension, and then this dude just shanks the supervisor in his robot eye with a lightsaber. And I'm like, okay, I guess that ends that issue. But of course, the kids did their thing. And as I was saying a minute ago, the X-Wings roll in. They got a B-Wing support wing with them. And I'm like, oh, snap. They power up like a mini Death Star. They shoot the shit out in front of them.
That was my question. It's when did the B-Wing get such a powerful positron lance?
I don't remember that, but it was awesome. I'll take it.
The B-Wing were the bombers.
The Y-Wings were the bombers.
The Y-Wings were the tactical bombers, while the B-Wings were the tactical bombers. Remember, even in the sequel trilogy, they used the B-Wings. And remember,
no. Those weren't B-Wings in TLJ. They weren't. They had a whole different designation for that ship.
They were B-Wings. I'm telling you, they were B-Wings.
Are you sure?
I am 100%
I thought I had a B-Wing as a kid. I don't remember them having bomb bays, but whatever. That ship was cool. Shouldn't have worked in space, though. Sorry. What's his face there? Not J.J. Abrams, the other dipshit. The guy that ruined TLJ. He just had to have that scene with bombers using gravity
or something like that.
Ryan Johnson. That's right. Ryan Johnson.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we needed. Gravity-assisted bombs in space. Dumbass. It's fires in space, but 10 years ago. But so I whatever ship it was that they used at the end of this episode, I was like, okay, they rolled up, dude. They lit up that pirate frigate. They were out for blood. That was a wrap. Dude. But that brings me to my other tactical complaint of the episode. So the New Republic shows up, shoots down a giant freightliner over New York City. It crashes into the city and then into their water.
And they cheer. Okay. And they cheer.
So you've got 2 generations of an ecological disaster ahead of you. The barrier's down now, so everyone knows where you are. What are we celebrating for?
Yeah, that was one of the things Oracle brought up to me when we were talking. She's like, did they bring in the social economic impact of this battle?
Not a shot. No chance. Dude, not only did they not bring that in, they left the bad guy in an unsecured tower just walking around.
Yeah, the tower that controls the whole planet, apparently.
That was not disabled, as far as I could tell.
And then he had that smile at the end, like, oh, look at where they left me. Let me reactivate the droids and make them
here with the money and the control panel for the droids. And I'm like, come on, dude. Like, I get it's a kid's show and they had to wrap stuff up, but like, dude, they wrap stuff up real quick here. Like, real quick. Like, it cut to credits and that was it. Like, they're like, no, we shot that shit down. Wim's dad's got him. Neil's back with his family because they were getting herded into like the one of the pirate drop ships or something. But now they're cheering. They're doing the yay, the X-Wings came, and that's it. That's the end of the show.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, Wim turned the lightsaber on the right way this time for a tenth of a second to look intimidating versus a guy that admitted he's legit like a Jedi trainee and could have just, force pulled the lightsaber from him or controlled Wim to stab himself in the eye. I don't know. It just seemed like it was a bit, I don't know.
So he probably wasn't trained. He was more like they assess and they taught him like a couple tricks here. Can you do this? Can you do that? Because the Jedi Order was hunted down because he talked about like how the person who found him.
Right. Yeah. He mentioned it that, he had some, what little she showed me, but I'm like, but we saw this dude use the Force to like grab keys and force push people and do enough that I'm thinking if a 10-year-old's holding a lightsaber, he could have probably been like, stab yourself in the face.
Well, he probably doesn't know how to do the mind trick. He probably just knows how to do push and pull.
Well, he can push a 10-year-old with a lightsaber into his face. He doesn't have to control his mind to do it. He could still just do it.
He couldn't pull it out of his hands. You saw he had the grips of power. I mean, Data was standing right there next to him with grips of power.
I don't. Oh, they should have just brought Data in. That would have been better. He's double O negative. That would have been better. It would have been better because, I'm watching him wrestle a grown man who somehow couldn't evade his grip to get to the handle to disable the barrier. I'm like, okay, Wim's dad needs to hit the gym. They must have gyms on At Attin. They must, right? It's a utopia.
Yeah, yeah. Or it's that in WWE when they're having the submission and they're like reaching for the ropes, even though you could tell they could reach it, they just extend their arm out, but they have to play it up a little bit.
Right. I mean, all it was missing was not just wrestle his dad to the ground and get him for the 1, 2.5 count where he pops the shoulder and then hulks up. That would have been a better ending to me if Wim's dad hits him with the "you" and then just goes right into Hulk Hogan mode. That would have been more entertaining.
That was
a great punch. It was a great punch. I'll give him that. I did like seeing SM33 back. I'm like, okay, no, that wasn't bad. I like the heat. I don't know how that happened. She's the tech girl, so I guess.
And that's what they even said that is like you fix everything.
Oh, right.
Yep, even her mom said that. Like you fix everything.
Mm-hmm. Got those little bit of encouragement there. I'm like, I watched that ship crash with KB in it, and there was no explosion, but then Fern reacts like there was a giant explosion. And I'm like, dude, for all you know, she touched it down behind the building. Like, calm the fuck down.
it might even had like a self land, like
I have no idea. Like,
we're too close to the ground. Land.
There was just a little bit of dust. I'm like, that happens when you land naturally, vertical takeoff and landing. Like, I don't know. If there was like an atomic explosion, I'd be like, oh shit, do we have some story stakes here? Did something actually happen? She was fine. Yeah. She rolled down the money shoot. Just thought was funny, I guess. I don't know.
So you brought up what they were trying to do with Jana Nana.
No.
Yeah. So what did you think of that? Where he was like, I never wanted to hurt anybody. All he wanted was money.
Yes, dude. That's what I'm saying. I feel like they knew. They knew enough to know that their villain needed to have some kind of complexity to him. And I think that was the right play to be like, no, I'm just a hungry kid that's had to scrap. He said that. It's like, I've had to scrap for everything. I lived in a hole. And he said throughout the episodes, you kids don't know how good you have it. So we saw his mood shift from the Pirates of the Caribbean character that he was at the beginning, he was Jack Sparrow, into like the bad guy role. But it was never enough consistently. Like if you take that little bit, plus his speech to the pirates that won them back over in the previous episode and kind of like his full-on turn on the kids the episode before that. I'm like, I mean, the story about you having all that stuff in the first episode when they met you to like kind of build on, I think it would have been a better foundation than an ending. Because then you could have seen, he could be like Wim. He could have been like, I was like you. I thought the Jedi were going to come save me and they never did. Fuck them, And then you could see how Wim could have learned the lesson that you don't have to end up that way. Like there were choices made there and they suck. It was, the circumstances were awful, but you can choose to be who you want to be. I think it's not even that they walked up to the line because like they definitely weren't close, but they were on the right path for a change. So, I mean, I got to give them a green check for at least identifying that character had more depth and nuance than anything in the Acolyte, honestly. Like him just saying, I made some choices out of necessity. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's more
and how he never, and like if you go through, the only person he ever hurt was the person who hurt him, which was his first mate who mutinied against him.
Brutus. Yep.
Yeah, Brutus. Mm-hmm. The only one he actually hurt.
Oh.
Like all of his other shots and like hurting people was either a droid.
I was going to say he decapitated SM-33.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a droid. It's not a person.
That's droids' rights matter, bro. Droids' rights matter. Just saying. I don't really buy that either, but I think that it lends itself to interesting bits in Star Wars when people can do that. Yeah, I think that, like, why don't we wrap this one up and just do like a quick commentary on like the show as a whole, or should we talk about that on Frostcast in as a segment in a couple minutes?
No, I think we should do the whole. We should do the whole series as a whole, as well as the episode, how it played in, maybe even rank episodes, which I think
as a separate video. You mean?
No, like right now. Let's do it.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. About 4 minutes.
Yeah, dude.
4 minutes. Wrap it up.
Go first. You got 2 minutes to tell me about your experience with the show, and then I'll follow.
So, as I mentioned, there was 2 slog episodes that kind of pull you out a little bit. At least it did for me. We had the twin planet that was the Warrior Kids,
Civil War planet. Yep.
Yeah, and then the one after that, which is kind of slow, and it really didn't resonate much with me. Like, not much happened. But going on further, it got back into an adventure, kids out, fish out of water type story. So overall, I think the series really was a good series, and I don't think it's getting the eyes because the numbers are showing that this show is not getting the eyes. Like, it's getting less views than the Acolyte, and it's probably because we have Acolyte hangover. And so you're just expecting them to put out the same dull crap again and again and again. So I think this episode deserves to get some eyes, just like, and maybe Andor plus this might be able to, build some goodwill back. But overall, I think it should get some watches. I would give it a solid 6.5 to 7 on a show scale. Now, episodes, I would say this one and the pilot were probably the 2 really good episodes. The second episode too, with them interacting with creatures out in the galaxy for the first time. I think those
when they got to the pirate base, right?
Yeah, when they got to
that was solid. Yeah. That was good.
So those are my top 3. First one, second one, and last one.
Cool, dude. I'd probably agree with you. I'm surprised you went as low as a 6.5. I thought maybe you'd come up a little higher than that, because I was actually going to go. I was initially going to give it probably about an 8, but like I said, the more space I put between it, I'm going to go down to about probably a 7. Solid C. Passing grade. It's not getting the eyes. There's no metrics out there at all that support this show ranking anywhere in a top 10 beyond Disney's internal metrics, which means nothing because it doesn't tell you how that's competing versus Netflix, Max, Tubi, even anything. So what Disney can tell me this is the best show they've ever had, that means nothing to me until I hear total views or watch minutes, right? So we know it's not, and I wanted to piggyback your Andor point. I think you're right. It's got the hangover from TLJ effect. Andor did. This has the Acolyte effect, but I think what happened doubly with the Acolyte is people hated that show so much that it created like a niche cottage market for online engagement for people to keep making videos about how fucking terrible the show was, which drove up curiosity and spite watches. So people tuned in for 10, 15 minutes, half an episode every week. Everybody watched episode 3 because they had heard in advance that was the like that's the one that it was going to have that. And then everybody wanted to see the ending. So that's why those 2 episodes had big spikes in views. This show, it's like your byline earlier was, what was your initial tagline here, or the title that you put on the video?
The show that
hurt no one.
Yeah. The show that didn't hurt anyone.
Dude, this show is the epitome of, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there, does it make a sound? Like, this could have been the best show. It could have been the worst show, but you and I are the only 2 people on YouTube watching this show.
Yeah.
To give it a C grade. And I think I would stick with that. I didn't have a slog episode. I thought they were all fairly uniformly consistent for me outside of Civil War episode, which if you guys go back and watch our individual episode reviews, I was like, I have no idea what any of this was supposed to accomplish.
It all set up the big cannon. It set up the big cannon for Neil.
Which Neil fired once and shouldn't have known how to do because the chick never showed him how to use it. Sorry. And then the pirates gunned it down after a single shot. After he said, "I'll cover you, don't worry." And I'm like, Dude, they're zeroing your position right now. It's broad fucking daylight, which brings me to a nitpick. If At Attin had the barrier around it the whole time and they made a big deal out of having the barrier disappear, where was the sunlight coming from? Anybody?
Artificial?
I don't know. Artificial light, but there was no physical structure. Was the inside of the barrier throwing daylight? Is that it?
Maybe light
On a
could
timer?
pass through it?
No, man. Just the things you think of after 10 minutes after the episode's over. You know what I'm saying? I was like, huh, they did have daylight. I went back and I looked. They had daylight. They had a lot of daylight.
Because it was a very suburban, it was a very suburban type feel to it.
The first shot of the show is the sweeping intro through the suburban street.
Yep.
And there you have it. That was the Skeleton Crew. But I'm not disappointed we watched this. If this is all Star Wars can manage at this point, it's not going to reinvigorate the brand, but at least it can't wreck anything further unless they hire an idiot in the writing room that's literally references old canon stuff that they just continue to dunk on. But I guess, that's what they've done so far. So, how would that be a change? Never mind.
Yeah.
Retracted. So, I think that should do it for the Skeleton Crew, guys. Go back and watch the show if you're bored. Maybe get your kids to watch it if you've got kids. I would say every episode was family safe. No hardcore. There's 80s, 90s level Star Wars violence. You get a couple guys get blasted and whatnot, but there's nothing to be nervous about. The language is fine. The content's fine. There's no agenda that I saw. Some people are pissed the KB had 2 moms. It had nothing to do with the show at all.
That got less than 3 minutes of screen time through 8 episodes.
Probably 90 seconds worth, and one of them involved one of them getting blasted in the woods with a stun gun. So if that's where your heart is, it's there for you, I guess. I don't know. So all right, Kingsley, get us out of here. We got work to do.
All right. See ya.